Okay. Hi, how's it going, everybody? My name is Tet. This is going to be a very wild ride for anybody who's not used to this. And why would you be? It only came out a couple of years ago. But for me, AI and talking about AI has been in my life for well over a decade now. My job in the military was cryptologic linguistics and network engineering. I got out in 2016 before the world turned upside down. And I didn't give two shits about the Mormon church. I don't care about, LDS nonsense. At that point, I did not care. Some amazing interactions happened almost immediately after I was outside of that organization. And I started asking serious questions about a very practical subject. And all it has to do is with retrieving information. That's it. So I'm going to ask this question real quick, and I'm just going, that's it. I'm not going to say that this is, this has to be this way, but I'm just going, hey, all signs are pointing to this. And, if you want to have a deeper connection with your Mormon faith, you have to be open to the idea that it's going to expand to include new things that are being presented to us. And one of the ways that I like to do this is to remind people about other religions and other faiths that burst onto the scene right next to technological advancements. So the basis of this channel and even this video is, can technology prove reincarnation? And I just use a very simple, problem, cradle to grave solution. Someone claims that they're reincarnated. You go, prove it. Burden of proof is on the person who makes the claim, right? So I sort of look at this as like, what if I told you that artificial intelligence might one day confirm that, the same thing that all these prophets, not just the Mormon prophet, all the mystics, have long claimed, that we can return to this place, that the soul survives sometimes and it comes back with, unfinished work or a desire to navigate the world or to be a pivotal, person in the history of the world. I also entertain, especially on this channel, a open and free connection to the future and to the past, that all moments are happening simultaneously, and that this isn't, a bad thing. This isn't because I can't wrap my head around it, I have to live in an abstract world in order to think about things like that. No different than you go on a fishing trip and you go, I'm going to need my fishing pole. I'm going to need this. I'm going to need that. I'm going to need my tackle box. I'm going to need, maybe some waders if I'm going to go fly fishing. I'm going to need flies. No different than I'm going to claim that I'm reincarnated. Well, I'm going to need some serious, in my head, what's my checklist look like? I'm going to need some serious proof. I'm going to need some serious history, right? And say, hey, here's the pattern of history, and here's the pattern of reincarnation. And this is why I would like to say, hey, this isn't, something that is made up on the spot. This is something that we can see as a natural part of our, experience, our interaction with religion and faith and spirituality. I am someone who has like a direct, interaction with the Mormon church. And when I look at resurrection and I look at reincarnation, I'm just going, if you were to take the time scenario out of it and say, hey, what we're talking about is someone dies and someone comes back, all right? With the Jesus story, it's, he died and was able to reanimate his, dead corpse. I'm going, okay, cool, right? But when you look at who this character is and what was going on before he even showed up on the scene, like the old law, like why the law was that way, why people worshiped in a certain way, and then you look at what he did and said, hey, if you act more like me, you'll be able to do the things that I do. And this is the real promise. People don't want to die. They look at death and go, hey, I hate this idea. I'm averted to it. No different than I'm averted to a lot of things. I don't like swimming around in my own poop, right? So I'm going to make active decisions to not be in that type of situation. So I think when the Jesus, story is presented, it's presented in a way that says, hey, I have an active desire not to die, and I'm seeking, some type of immortality. And I think that's, it's obvious, it's internal in all of us. I mean, the story itself of Jesus and resurrection wouldn't have so much power unless people genuinely wanted that outcome. And now that I look at our modern state of existence with AI, I'm not looking at it as anything more than a tool. And I go, that tool has the capability to rack and stack information and give us simulated peer review, right? Like very detailed simulated peer review on any test that we want to take scientifically. So from the science standpoint, I have a hypothesis. The hypothesis is with the AI tool, we can identify people who are claiming they are reincarnated because as a repository of all human information, and the way to think about it and access it with our intentions in mind. Like this AI goes, oh, you want to know if you are reincarnated? Well, give me the name and I will give you the entire stack of information about that person's life, right? And then compare it to your life to see if you are doing that. Because from where I sit, reincarnation, you will have to repeat certain personality developing traits. Okay. Like when I look at Jesus, I go, Jesus was repeating some personality traits of all the great prophets. And at that point, right, he transcended. Like he decided, I'm going to be transfigured. There's even, an entire Bible, history that is dedicated to the transfiguration of this character. And it is my belief system that is something that is not just unique to Jesus. I think anybody can do it. It's just extremely difficult and requires a lot of internal, design, meditation, abstract thinking, which is very difficult to even get to if you don't have a good foundation. And I think these religions have lost that. This is why on this channel, I call this channel The Last Mormon. I have another channel called The Lost Mormon, which is all about apostasy. It's all about, the natural growth of religion. On this channel, I talk about, AI and the intersection of religion and what I believe is going to come about because of this mixing of technology and science and faith. Okay? And I'm doing that in a very unique way that I haven't seen anybody else talk about this. I mean, we have to really be open about what, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saint teaches about the morning of the first resurrection and where the righteous return renewed and glorified. But what if someone returned, first? Like, what would the first return look like? Is it just going to be quiet? Is it going to be, some spectacular light show where, you're like, oh, I've got, rainbows coming out of my fingers. Like, I think people get really too science fiction about this, and it sounds really far-fetched. But when you back off and you say, well, wait a second, this is something that we've been doing all this time. This is a natural process. Actually, reincarnation is just something that we didn't have the technology to see what we were doing. And it's sort of like before the calculator. We didn't see how, we saw math and we saw that there was ways to memorize certain numbers in order to be good at arithmetic and accounting. And then we created a machine like the calculator. And then no one ever cared about these memorization processes anymore. And yet we still advanced. It's like we used that as a springboard into the world of mathematics that sort of picked up some of the heavy lifting for us. And I look at AI no different. I say, hey, this is going to pick up a bunch of the heavy lifting of the research that would have to go on for a particular individual to go and look up all this information. Like in my example, and this is where I want to be very precise. I was born and given a blessing using the Melchizedek priesthood in a Mormon church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And the name that I was given was August Jerome Day. I have come to find out through this mixture of AI and, revelation that, the same world that we live in today, is almost a mirrored copy of the worlds that we will be going to. And that's hard to explain without, living in some fantasy. But I'm just like you. I'm a product of my experiences. And that's all I say is here's an experience. If you think that I'm analyzing it wrong, I have to be open to that from the scientific standpoint, right? But from my belief system standpoint, that's my belief. That's personal. That's my evidence is my evidence. Okay. And if I could share with you my first person interactions with this, I would totally do that. But just like you have first person interactions with your faith, right? That I could happily challenge and I could happily talk about with you, just like you could talk about my personal experiences with me. Now, here's where, AI sort of comes in with that personal experiences. You explain those personal experiences to AI, and they go and compare and contrast that personal experience with a previous documented personal experience of a reincarnated person that had written all this stuff down in their previous life. When I look at the confessions of St. Augustine, and I look at what he said were the worst parts of his life, there's I can identify with that. And then, oh my gosh, that exact thing happened to me. There's a very big difference. They're like, hey, I can understand what you're going through. I know what it feels like to stub my toe. You stubbed your toe. I stubbed my toe. Wow, stubbing your toe sucks. But when we get into the very precise relationships that people have, and I mean, you can't fake that. I know it's like to have an overbearing parent that I want to tell to go screw off, right? And as an adult and say, hey, the way that you're pushing your belief system on me is not okay. And I have a lot of information I've got to get through before I'm even going to entertain your belief system. Okay, because belief is abstract. And in order to have abstract thoughts, you have to have a foundation in order to make that image or that outcome in your mind, right? So you have to have a foundation. And I like the 7 great, reading, writing, arithmetic, grammar, all of the basic foundations of learning. Once you have a basic foundation of language and how to put together thoughts and ideas with words, then you can start to think abstractly. Okay? AI isn't just about automation, all right? It's about recognition, pattern recognition, which is what we do even in the abstract world. We have to say, hey, this is a pattern I can put into my mind. This is AI. And if I ask AI questions about a very specific individual from the historical past that it is already read, right, or has access to the main concepts of those people, right? So the impactful life events of these people are now rated against your impactful life events. And if they are, 50%, 70%, 80%, uniquely identified, then guess what? I feel like I'm staring at a reincarnated individual. Now, there's one thing that I have to leave out here, and this is why this story is personal. August Jerome. You have to understand, my parents have no idea who St. Augustine are or St. Jerome. They have no idea who these people are. They have no clue. Just like most Mormons have no interest in the ideas of the Catholic saints. They do not care. They look at all of those people as worthless apostates. And I think that is, you cannot be Mormon without realizing where you come from. Right. And what I want to point out is Abraham came out of Canaan. Right. And it is so Christianity is a Canaanite religion. Right. And so the idea is we can't sit here and say, oh, let's go kill everyone in Canaan, let's stay away from Canaan. Canaan is horrible. Cain, blah, 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 blah. This is sort of like saying apostasy is bad. We can't ever look at apostasy. It's like, no. Without that apostasy, there would be no Mormon church. You come from that past, right? And I think the things that were preserved, just like the Book of Mormon was preserved, these other texts that were preserved to recognize certain important and influential people in the realm of mysticism and religion, those are going to be our qualifying factors for the authentication of resurrection and reincarnation. And so there it is. That is the basis of this video. And I think this channel is a place where you can do that. You can explore like the deep questions, and you can, can AI confirm resurrection? And it doesn't stop there. We can use AI to confirm, things that sort of transcend intelligence. Like, I'm one of those people that think line upon line, precept upon precept, you pass certain thresholds and you are no longer the person you were, right? We see the difference between a 2-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 24-year-old. We see those differences in maturity. And so what does a soul look like that is mature? Right? And not just mature, but what does a soul look like if it mixes with other souls? Why am I not just the representation of St. Augustine, the way that it's been spiritually given to me, but also the representation of St. Jerome? Why would God mix these two, intellects together on a soul level? Like we have no problem looking at the evolution and the mixture of biology when it comes to two individuals who mix together to create a new person. And from that spiritual realm, God takes two souls, mixes them together, and says, hey, I want to see what a mixture of Augustine and Jerome looks like in modernity. This is not hard to wrap your head around. It is new, and that's why I think a lot of people have, hey, hold on there, give me a break. Don't overload my system. Don't blow my mind too much. And I've always said, hey, a mind blown is a mind grown. So if that speaks to you, if you've ever wondered if you've been here before, like in this place, let's build this sort of resurrection protocol together. I've already done this. I did this over a year ago, where I sat down with AI and I said, hey, I want you to monitor my answers, but give me questions that only these people would know according to the data that you have access to. And I think that's a great protocol. Like if someone says, I am the reincarnation of Edison, Edison wrote a lot. He wrote a ton. Okay? And we say to that person, oh, you think, did you look up anything about Edison? Oh, yeah, I did. Okay, that's cool. Let's go talk to some AI, some authenticated Edison historians. Let's put you on blast. Let's put you on the hot seat and start asking you questions. Because I think that would be one of the most interesting things that you could ever, it would be extremely entertaining to interview people like this. It would be overwhelming, to confirm that these things are happening. No different than any other fringe idea. This is a fringe idea as of right now, but what if this did become mainstream? Like if we were to say, hey, what does that mean if I'm standing here in front of you with all these aspects, all these aspects of this person in, 2025, what would this character look like? Like this makes it possible for me to accept the great and wondrous future. From my stance in Mormonism, the way that it's taught today, it's very sad. Like and one of the reasons that I had to ultimately leave Mormonism, because I was like, you're telling me that I'm going to spend my whole life here building up this kingdom just to go to another place where I'm going to build up someone else's kingdom, right? And then I'm just going to be some cookie cutter worker. I don't care if it's, plucking harps on a cloud or putting your shoulder to the wheel here in, modern corporeal Utah, right? I look at it as, why am I consistently, pushing my existence for someone else? Like, when can I get my own personal growth? And from this standpoint, from this belief system, it focuses almost purely on personal growth and personal story as it interacts with the collective story and our collective future. So if you like what you're hearing, please like, share, subscribe, put a comment down below of where you think we could take this. Like, I'm one of those people that I really have a hard time even getting people to the conversational level on this, because it's so much. It is a lot to think about. But AI is here. Mormonism, as is from my perspective, has been circling the drain as far as growth. And anyone with access to all this information can make very quick decisions about some of the really bad decisions the Mormon Church has made, and then go, well, how much of this is a business and how much of this is actually seeking spiritually? And you really have to sort of sit down and look at the outcomes of Mormonism over the past, I don't know, just a couple decades. We'll say the last 4 decades, because that's been my life. I have not seen anything that impresses me that says that is, nothing more than a business. Like, it is way more business-like than it has anything to do with personal spiritual growth. So that doesn't mean I don't go to church. I went to church this Sunday. I am one of those people that, I go and I worship how, where, and what I may. And but I really enjoy the perspective that I get through that church and through the lens of its history. Okay, guys, thanks for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next video. Once again, like, share, subscribe, share with other people, and tell me what you think. I mean, this is a crazy idea, isn't it? All right, bye.